What's up guys on YouTube, NGS here, and today is going to be my first ever video game review. I have a long stream of video game reviews that I'm going to be reviewing. Today I'm going to be reviewing an old classic, the first ever Dragon Ball Z game released in America, Dragon Ball Z Budokai, one of the best fighters out on the PlayStation 2. Okay, some backstory on this. Technically, this was the second game. I know I said first, but you know, the first popular game. The second Dragon Ball Z game released in America, because originally in 1997 or so, Japan released Dragon Ball GT Final Bout, and apparently America ported that onto the PlayStation, and it was really hard to find that game back in the 90s, late 90s, and on eBay it was retailing for, you know, $300, and who's gonna pay that much money for a game that looked like it should have been on, you know, the Super NES? So I'm like, you know, Dragon Ball GT Final Bout, no, I'm not gonna buy that. And then they re-released it in 2004 to, you know, to accommodate Dragon Ball GT being on TV. And I'm like, you know, PlayStation game 2004, so I didn't pick it up. But anyway, going back to it, Budokai, one of the best PS2 games out. It was my first PS2 game in 2002 when it launched. What I really like about this game was the fighting style. It was unlike any fighting style I've ever played. The story mode goes up to the Cell Saga, you know, like any standard first Dragon Ball Z game. So you're fighting your way through the Vegeta Saga, the Ginyu Saga, the Frieza Saga, the Android Saga, and now the Cell Saga. So you know, that's 5 sagas overall. The best thing about this game that I think it was the story. The story was presented very, very awesome in this game. It was amazing because it was actually the dialogue from the show. They actually animated it and made it like a movie, if you want to say, and it was really awesome. They had cutscenes and everything, and overall it was a really awesome game. It's not like the Dragon Ball Z games today, how somehow you're on a little game board and the other ones you're just like hearing captions in the background, which I didn't really like. But this game just presented the story in an awesome way. It made me feel like I was watching the TV. This was a way you can watch Dragon Ball Z while fast forwarding through fillers, well, up to the Cell Saga. Another great thing that was awesome about DBZ Budokai 1 was that it was released in the hype of Dragon Ball Z. Right when Dragon Ball Z became the big phenomenon that it was. This game was released, which gave you a great look at the story and overall Dragon Ball Z, which was really awesome. Now I know that this game is, you know, nearing 7 years old, and that's how long I've had it, but it was a really awesome game. It really, like, because I never watched the Saiyan Saga and the Cell Saga on TV because, you know, I don't want to say I didn't have the patience, just I never got a chance to watch it because, I don't know why, I just never watched it. And it was kind of weird that they released Dragon Ball GT Final Bout in America when America wouldn't get that game till roughly, you know, 7 years later. And the anime didn't even premiere in America until 7 years later. And Dragon Ball Z was virtually unknown in America at the time, so that's why many retailers didn't carry the game, and that's why it made it extremely hard to find. There were some few things that I didn't like about Budokai 1, was the fact that it was really short, but you know, it's the Cell Saga and, you know, it's not a lot. The game ranges from, you know, 2 to 4 hours, depending on how experienced you are. If you're a really experienced player, you can beat it in maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours or so. Overall, the story was presented awesome. The graphics were really good for the time, and people now, like, they look back and they criticize this game saying, you know, the graphics were pretty bad. You know, for back then, the first Dragon Ball Z game, 3D graphics, they were pretty good, and now the newer games use cell shaded and, you know, CG and stuff. But overall, this was a really awesome game, and, you know, occasionally, maybe once in a couple months, I'll pop it into the PS2 and play it. But overall, this is pretty good, and no Dragon Ball Z game after this game has presented the story in a very unique fashion. The other games, like, off the top of my head, Burst Limit tried to try it, but, you know, they failed in the end because they focused way too much on the graphics this game that they couldn't overall present the story, and they presented it in, like, sort of in a poor way, if you can say, because they only showed, like, certain parts, and they keep reusing scenes all over, so, but, you know, Burst Limit, you know, it's about 20 bucks now. But overall, Budokai was an awesome game in 2002. It's really cool, it's really fun. You can probably find it at GameStop for about $2 now, you guys, so it's definitely a recommender for checking out. If you want the more newer version of Budokai, I recommend buying Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, which is also on the PS2. It was released in 2004. That is the best Budokai series. The Tenkaichi series is a whole nother series, but apparently in America they wrote Budokai Tenkaichi. So anyway, check out Budokai 3, Budokai 2. and Budokai 1, their awesome series. This was New Games Rock, you guys. Thanks for watching my review, and I'll catch you guys later.